Hello and welcome to episode 105 of the official EstablishTheRun.com podcast. My name is Adam Levitan. I'm one of the co-founders here at ETR. As always, I am joined by fellow co-founder Evan Silva. And with the season kicking off in just 2 days, welcome to the first team-by-team podcast of the season. Evan, the NFL season is so close, it almost makes me feel happy to be alive. What's going on?
Oh, I'm so happy. It's a great time of year, and it's especially great after all that we, as a nation and as a world went through to get here. And also, it's I'm interested to know how the haters and losers that told us that they assured us there would never be a season. We were foolish to be tweeting about football. What happens to all those tweets? Do they just disappear into the ether, or what? What happens?
Yeah, well, those people are underprepared because we've been preparing for this season for the last 5 months,
Yes,
expecting there to be a season. And a lot of people thought there wouldn't be. And now they are likely to be behind. And hopefully we can profit off that, particularly early in the year. Okay, normally on these Tuesday shows, we'll spend a few minutes on each team discussing what we saw from their game the previous week. Of course, there were no games last week. So today we're just going to hit on the latest news, give our latest thoughts on each team. This pod, the NFC version, will be free. The AFC version you can find behind the paywall. And so if you're an in-season subscriber, you will get instructions to add an RSS feed to your podcast platform, and then you'll be able to authenticate, and then access the podcast. Also on that premium feed, the Friday night show, Evan and I will do breaking down the entire DFS slate, the Saturday show, talking GPPs with Dink and Leone, and the Sunday pre-lock show where Evan and I talk last minute news and take your questions. Those will all be on the premium feed as well. So anyways, Evan's matchups are up. Our projections for week one are up. All the week one content is coming. Essentially everything we think you need to win. Again, if you have the draft kit and would like to upgrade to bundle, please email support@establishthedrun.com. If you have draft kit only and would like to upgrade to in-season, aka the bundle, email support@establishthedrun.com. All right, let's get to it with the NFC, Evan. DeAndre Hopkins not only is back in practice, but DeAndre Hopkins has a contract extension as well. I would also note that Kenyon Drake, who had that boot on, came out and said, not a big deal. He's going to be 100% as well. Looks like Arizona is going to be all systems go for their week one difficult matchup against the 49ers. I know part of the Hopkins fade, or at least a half joking part of the Hopkins fade, was that, hey, maybe he's not a little contract thing. And Adam Schefter even mentioned that to us, but now Hopkins has his deal. Any thoughts on Arizona?
Primary reason for the Hopkins fade is always just that, changing team receivers tend to lose production on their new teams. And that I don't think he's going to be able to get back to that 166 target plateau that he averaged for a half decade in Houston, with a lot more target competition in Arizona. But it is good news that he's back in practice, because he didn't practice for almost the entirety of training camp. But the Cardinals were just really cautious, also with Kenyon Drake, also with Larry Fitzgerald during camp. And, they're going to jump right in the season. This San Francisco-Arizona game, I think, is going to be really, really interesting, because San Francisco's defense, I think, is going to take a actually potentially big step back this year for reasons that you can read about in the matchups column.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I've been working on ownership projections, and I don't think the Arizona guys are going to be too highly owned, because people are automatically afraid of San Francisco's defense. So that'll be an interesting topic for Friday, and then matchups for sure. Let's go to Atlanta. I thought it was at least notable that Brian Hill has iced Quadri Allison. Brian Hill has iced the judge, Ito Smith, and Brian Hill has won this job, the backup job behind Todd Gurley, because I don't know, is Todd Gurley going to play 80% of the running back snaps or 60% of the running back snaps? I honestly don't know, but I'm pretty confident at this point that Brian Hill is going to pick up the rest of that. Do you think Brian Hill is worth stashing in season long heading into week one?
Yes, I do think there are a couple takeaways, because the Falcons kept 5 RBs. Now, that's including Keith Smith, their fullback, but they kept 4 tailbacks. That's a lot for the NFL, especially when you can keep a ton of guys this year on your practice squad, way more than usual. I think it's like 16 or something. We're seeing like Josh McCown is on the Eagles practice squad. It's very strange compared to other years. But I think they kept 4 as insurance on Todd Gurley's knee. I do think that if Todd Gurley were to go down, it wouldn't necessarily just be the Brian Hill show. It could be Brian Hill, Ito, and Quadri Allison. So, but we think this is going to be a high scoring offense. Brian Hill, I think, would be likely to be the lead back. And therefore, yes, I think that he is worth stashing in 12 and 14 team leagues at the end of your bench just to see what happens. I also think, though, that this is going to be the most confident time of year to use Todd Gurley in fantasy leagues and maybe sell him off if he gets off to a hot start.
Yep, interesting game there, Atlanta, Seattle for sure. Let's go to Carolina. Speaking of backup running backs, it was not Reggie Bonifant who won the backup job. It's behind Christian McCaffrey. It was Mike Davis. And, the running back role in this scheme we expect to be, I know it's a new scheme, we still expect to be very productive. Mike Davis, I think, has been a favorite of some people in kind of the draftnik community for a while. I think it's in deep spots where you're considering holding Reggie Bonifant. You can hold Mike Davis now. And also we got an update on Ian Thomas's health. They did sign back Colin Thompson to the team, so they have 3 tight ends now, Manhurts, Thomas, and Thompson, but they did say they expect Ian Thomas to play and be fine. I think he's in play and probably okay to use. Any thoughts on Mike Davis or Ian Thomas heading to week 1?
Yeah, I would prioritize Mike Davis slightly ahead of Brian Hill just because there's not a lot of competition for work if something goes to McCaffrey, whereas there is in Atlanta if something happens to Todd Gurley. Defensively, this Panthers team looks so bad on paper. The Panthers just placed their number 2 cornerback, Eli Apple, on IR. Their number 1 cornerback is Dante Jackson, who got benched at times last year. And then their number 3 is a late 3rd-round pick, Troy Pride out of Notre Dame. And, he's a 4th-rounder. This is going to be a defense that we're going to be attacking all season long. And I think that this Raiders-Panthers game should be popular in DFS.
All right, let's move to the Bears. And man, this running back situation for the Bears, we are here Tuesday, 2:00. I don't think they've added anybody, which means they're going to go to week 1 with Tariq Cohen, with Cordero Patterson, and with Ryan Nall as their running backs. They did announce that Mitch Trubisky will start in this game against the Lions. Look, it's an interesting spot for Mitch, which we'll talk more about on Friday for sure. But just what do you think the Bears are thinking with this running back trio they're about to run out there? Assuming, and maybe David Montgomery's healthier than we think too.
I do not know. I just straight up don't know. We're going to find out more information when the injury report comes out on Wednesday. It's very surprising to me that they did not sign another running back. And we're gonna have to just monitor the injury reports. They haven't said anything publicly about David Montgomery, whether he's in or out.
Yeah. One idea that I had for the Bears was play Tariq Cohen the whole game and just throw the ball on like every play.
Yeah.
And that's super dangerous when you have Mitch, but something to think about for sure. This Lions pass rush, if you go and read Brandon's DL pass rush rankings in the draft kit, dead last. Okay. Dallas. I actually don't have anything on Dallas. It's been like eerily quiet on Dallas. I think we know how they're going to play. I think we know how their personnel is going to be used. I don't really have any questions about how Dallas is going to play heading into this Rams game, other than they're just going to smash. Do you have anything on Dallas?
No.
Okay.
I continue to like it when, Mike McCarthy reiterates every time he speaks to the press, he reiterates that he is leaving the offense to Kellen Moore.
Yep.
Because this was an elite offense last year, and now they have better personnel this year, with the exception of the loss of La'el Collins. But that's in week 1, especially against the Rams. The Rams don't have great outside edge pass rushers. Aaron Donald is really primarily an interior pass rusher. But the Rams don't have great outside pass rushers. They lost their best outside pass rusher, Dante Fowler, in free agency. Their defense is not looking good. This is going to be a fun game. Yep. Dallas against the Rams.
Yeah, and Thorman already talked about, he's teased it him in his pace article, going to be very high-paced game as well. All right, the Lions chose to sign Adrian Peterson off the scrap heap. When you have a chance, when you have Kenny Galladay and Marvin Jones and Matthew Stafford and DeAndre Swift and Kerryon Johnson, and you have a chance to add a 35-year-old running back who doesn't play in the pass game, you just have to do it when you're the Lions. And so they choose to do it. DeAndre Swift has been banged up. Kerryon Johnson has been banged up. But man, I just hate to see Adrian Peterson come and take away touches from guys. And I think they like talking like they're going to use him already in week 1. Any reaction to the Adrian Peterson signing? Did you move down Swift and Kerryon in the top 150?
Yep, move down Swift and Kerryon. We have been a little higher than consensus on Kerryon and a little lower than consensus on DeAndre Swift. We're now considerably lower than consensus on DeAndre Swift and about even on Kerryon Johnson. And this is going to be a disaster situation. I mean, it's just setting up to be a disaster situation. They can also play Ty Johnson. I mean, there are 4 guys here in the mix for touches in this backfield. We know that, over the past couple of years under Matt Patricia, the Lions have run a widespread RBBC, and I'm expecting that again.
Yeah. All right, let's go to Green Bay. Speaking of RBBC, I thought maybe there was a chance that Jamal Williams would get traded. Maybe there was a chance that Jamal Williams would get cut. Didn't end up happening. So they will go to the season with Jamal Williams, obviously Aaron Jones, and AJ Dillon. And so Aaron Jones also tweeted that he's working on a contract extension. Like, these guys aren't going anywhere. Maybe Jay will after this year, but for now, it looks like they're going to use all 3. And I mean, my whole thing all year was like, don't take Aaron Jones in the second round and then bitch to me that he's sharing time with Jamal Williams and AJ Dillon. Like, it's going to happen. Doesn't mean Aaron Jones can't pay it off, but it's just going to happen. So little update there. Also, personal note, Robert Foster, Australian for sex, was added to the Packers practice squad. We'll see if he ever gets a chance, but it's at least something notable considering how thin they are at wide receiver. Anything on Green Bay that I mentioned or otherwise?
Yeah, looking like the 3 receiver set is going to be Devontae Adams with Allen Lazard and Marquez Valdez-Scantling to open the year. And then Robert Tonyan fully expected to be, like a 70% player maybe in week 1. And I mean, he's got some sleeper appeal. He's a really good athlete. He's made some noise in past preseasons. And Jay Sternberger just really never made a move during camp. I think that Mercedes Lewis is going to play a lot too there. He's obviously not a fantasy consideration, but Robert Tonyan will be a guy to keep an eye on early in the year. See if he can draw a decent target share from Aaron Rodgers.
For sure. Okay, let's go to the Rams because I have 2 things here on the Rams. First of all, I thought I kind of brushed it off as like wild beat writer speculation, but there's a lot of smoke that Van Jefferson has pushed Josh Reynolds to the brink here and may even play ahead of Josh Reynolds in week 1. And that's a pretty rapid rise for Van Jefferson, who was left for dead by a lot of like dynasty draftnik type people. So I thought that's notable. And also notable, Darrell Henderson remains questionable, but it sounds like Malcolm Brown is probably going to get the quote unquote start. Still expect Cam Akers to play a ton. What do you think about what's going on deep in the Rams stuff?
Yeah, I don't know what to believe. There was the NFL Network had a reporter live at Rams camp a few days ago, and he was saying that Van Jefferson had established himself as the number 4 receiver. And so that means that he would not be in 3 receiver sets. Then you read, different beat writers and they're saying different things. So we're just going to have to wait till week 1 to really know what's going on there. Van Jefferson, though, he was coming off Liz Frank fracture, and it seems to be 100%. So that's a pretty impressive recovery. But yeah, how it works out between him and Josh Reynolds will be something that we'll be looking at in week 1.
Yeah, and also what I'll be looking at in week 1 is how often are they in 12, because I think it's going to be a lot with Everett and Higbee. And in those 2 wide receiver sets, is it Kupp? Because last year down the stretch when they went to 12 a lot, let's be honest, Cooper Kupp was not on the field a ton. So that's definitely something that I will be watching for sure.
I do not think they're going to be in 12 a lot. So this will be something that, will be decided on the field.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is kind of stuff that maybe we could have seen in preseason that we're not. And so we'll just have to see in week 1. Yep. Okay. Vikings. I don't have a lot on the Vikings. Dalvin Cook has not gotten his contract, but he still has a few days, and we'll talk about Kamara in a second. But these guys still probably have until Saturday to get their contracts done. Maybe they both will. Either way, I think both Dalvin and Kamara are fine. The one usage note here, I think BC Johnson is going to play ahead of Justin Jefferson in 2 wide receiver sets at the beginning for the Vikings, but I think it'd probably be a rotation. I mean, BC's just not very good, and we were working on the projections, and I was like, man, we got to get BC's projection down because he's just not that good. And also, I don't think this is a very productive spot in the offense, as Evan alluded to when he first dropped Justin Jefferson out of the top 150, I don't know, 4 or 6 weeks ago or something like that. Anything on that or else in Minnesota?
Just continue to expect a massive, massive target share for Adam Thielen. And I'm with you. Not a whole lot to worry about regarding Dalvin Cook.
New Orleans, speaking of not a lot to worry about, Alvin Kamara sounds like he's close to a deal. Alvin Kamara said that his back was not a big deal at all. So you left Alvin Kamara at number 4. I said I would have moved Alvin Kamara behind Derrick Henry in half PPR or non-PPR. You turned out to be right. I think that Alvin Kamara was never anything to worry about. And Alvin Kamara is firmly in play in week 1 in DFS, which we'll talk about more coming up later in the week. But yeah, I think Alvin Kamara is going to be fine, and they're ready to use him as evidenced by this big contract they're giving him. Anything on New Orleans?
No, just apparently Alvin Kamara looks tremendous on the field. This epidural thing that just is not a big deal at all. It was just to deal with some inflammation. Alvin Kamara said that he had it last year too. All systems go on Alvin Kamara.
The New York Giants have been kind of quiet. I've heard positive things on Evan Ingram's health. I haven't heard any problems with the wide receiver core. I haven't heard any problems with Saquon Barkley's schedule is not easy. They'll open up against Pittsburgh, and then they have a bunch of tough games in a row after that, which we've talked about plenty. But from a health and kind of drama perspective, Giants seem to be on track and honestly have real ton of talent. So I'm excited to see how they play against Pittsburgh. You know, if they can play well against this Pittsburgh defense, I think there's room for optimism. Not really much else going on, though. Anything you have on the Giants?
Yeah, good to see Evan Ingram enter training camp off the PUP, never even made it onto the PUP list, exit training camp without an injury, knock on wood. He can be, when he's healthy, he's a top 5 receiving tight end across the league. Most of the coverage regarding the Giants this during the training camp was regarding Joe Judge and his strange practice methods, making guys run laps and put in the taping tennis balls to the defensive back's hands so that they can't grab onto jerseys.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't have a problem with making guys run laps. I mean,
I just think it's interesting. It's not something that every coach does,
I know. Okay. Eagles got some good news. There's a report out there that Jalen Reagor has a really good chance to return in week 2. And if so, his draft ADP dropped too far. I mean, he was going in the 8th, 9th round. Then he gets hurt, and now you can get him in the 11th, 12th round at times. So I think that's interesting to note if you still have a draft coming up. In the meantime, we were talking a lot when we were working on the projections about who's going to play more, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside or Greg Ward. Obviously, Greg Ward is a natural slot receiver. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside will play more on the outside, and they're going to play a ton of 12 with Goddard and Ertz. So we'll see how much either one is on the field. It's just an interesting situation. Also, I think notable, Eagles did not add any more running backs there. Oh, they're going to sign Carlos Hyde. Oh, they're going to sign Devontae Freeman. They're never going to give a full workload to Miles Sanders. Well, looks like they are. They did sign Jason Huntley, who got cut by the Lions, but their main 3 running backs will be Boston Scott, will be Corey Clement, and will be the workhorse Miles Sanders. So I think it's all kind of lining up for the Eagles in week 1, other than facing a really nasty Washington front 7, which I'm a little bit concerned about. But anyways, anything on Philly that I mentioned?
Jason Peters going back to left tackle. Yeah. I like that. I mean, when I was doing the Eagles-Redskins write-up initially and writing about Matt Pryor, who has been in the NFL for 2 years, never played a snap, played right tackle and guard in college, and they were going to start him at left tackle, and he got creamed in their scrimmage last Sunday. That I did not like writing about that, So getting Jason Peters back to left tackle, I don't know if he's going to be able to hold up. I mean, he's 38 years old, but at least in the short term, seems like a much, much, much better option on Carson Wentz's blind side, especially going against this Redskins pass rush, which on the exterior, Chase Young, Montez Sweat, and Ryan Kerrigan, they have a nasty defensive front.
Yeah, for sure. And we're going to talk more about that because there's a lot of Eagles that are in play, specifically on DraftKings in week 1. San Francisco. I don't know, man. It sounds like Brandon Ayuk has a chance to play, and it sounds like Debo might have a chance to play as well. We're going to know a lot more on Wednesday when they get back in practice. Wouldn't surprise me if these guys came out and were questionable / game time decisions. But yeah, they're also going to take their 3 running backs, obviously, Raheem, McKinnon, and Tevin Coleman to this game against Arizona as well. Jimmy Garoppolo absolutely lit up the Cardinals in his 2 games against them last year. I think we're just going to be wait and see on San Francisco while we wait for health reports outside of course, the Kittle situation, who is just going to be a very strong and popular play. Anything else on San Francisco?
Keeping Jordan Reed gave them more options, in the pass catcher core to deal with their wide receiver injuries. They cut JaMychal Hasty, who had created a lot of buzz during training camp, but still kept 4 backs, the 3 that you mentioned, as well as Jeffrey Wilson. So deep backfield, a lot of uncertainty in the pass catcher core. I think George Kittle is just going to come out and go nuts against Arizona, but we shall see.
Yeah. All right, not a lot going on in Seattle. The one note that I had is I think projecting how much Carlos Hyde is going to play in week 1 is an interesting thing because Chris Carson gets to face the Falcons defense and everybody likes Chris Carson. I'm just not sure how much Carlos Hyde is going to play. Like old ball coaches like Carlos Hyde types. And I think Pete Carroll and Brian Schottenheimer are like old ball coach type guys. So I don't really have anything on news and notes, but I am very interested to see how much Carlos Hyde plays. You have anything on Seattle?
Don't have a lot here. Josh Gordon was re-signed by Seattle, but is still on the suspension list and awaiting reinstatement. But it looks like Philip Dorsett is going to open the season as Seattle's third receiver behind Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. They kept 4 tight ends, and this is another team that could play a lot of 12, especially because they don't have a good third receiver, and they like to run the ball, and 12 personnel formations tend to lead to better rushing efficiency.
Right.
So, but really what we want to see here is, are the Seahawks going to let Russ cook in quarters 1 through 3 against Atlanta? Perfect opportunity for them to do that. I wrote about it in the matchups column, which you can read at establishtheRun.com.
Let Russ cook one time. Okay. 2 more here. Tampa Bay Bucks. Obviously, there's a lot going on with Tampa Bay because they have so many new pieces. How are they going to integrate Leonard Fournette with Ronald Jones? How are they going to integrate Rob Gronkowski with Cam Brate and OJ Howard? And so we were working on some stuff for Tampa, and it's hard, man. Like, I don't know how much Rob Gronkowski is going to play out of the gate. I'm probably lower on him than market, but that's certainly one of the things I'll be watching. I personally think both Brate and OJ are going to play more than people think, and Gronk will play less and block more. But, I we'll see on that for sure. And then at running back, Bruce Arians says that Leonard Fournette has picked up the playbook quickly, and Leonard Fournette only needs to know about 30% of the playbook to get out there and help them. So I do think Ronald Jones starts in this week 1 game, but I think Leonard Fournette will see him and he will play. Anything on Tampa?
Yes, I agree with all. I mean, I think they're going to play all 3 of their backs. I think that they're going to play LaShawn McCoy, Fournette, and Ronald Jones. They're all going to get opportunities. They cut Dare Ogunbowale, who worked out for the Raiders the other day. OJ Howard, by a lot of accounts, had a tremendous training camp. And if he's able to parlay that and not go out in week 1 and get flagged for false starts and holding penalties and, drop a pass here or there, if he can avoid just those errors that he made consistently last season, then I think that he gives the Bucs every reason to limit the usage of Rob Gronkowski. Although Rob Gronkowski, I still think he's going to play like in red zone situations on obvious passing downs. And hey, I mean, if he can get 3 for 30 and a touchdown every week, he's going to finish as like a top 5 fantasy tight end.
All right, last one we are going to do here is the Washington football team. I think their 3 wide receiver set for week 1 has been established. It's obviously going to be Terry McLaurin, shower narrative. It's going to be Steven Sims. It's going to be Dontrell Inman, I think, is going to be their 3 wide receiver set. The tight end situation is something that I've in these kind of, by the way, the overlay on some of these best ball stuff, specifically DraftKings, is just absolutely out of control. And so I've been doing a lot of Haskins, Logan Thomas stacks at the end, like round 18, 19 of these best ball drafts. There's a lot of buzz on Logan Thomas. I don't have huge hopes for it. I'm curious what you think of all the buzz around Logan Thomas, and if you think anybody behind Terry McLaurin is really worth even considering.
Well, playing in a lot of FFPC leagues where you have tight end premium scoring, I've been trying to load up on Logan Thomas as my tight end 3 or tight end 4. I mean, I think that he's, the perfect bench stash. See what happens. He's got a good matchup in week 1 against Philadelphia. Philadelphia, very analytically minded team that, doesn't put a lot of emphasis on off-ball linebacker and safety play. So Logan Thomas is going to get some opportunities here in week 1 against Philadelphia. I think that there was the perception of Dwayne Haskins just kind of jumped the shark after he played really poorly to start when he was kind of just thrown to the wolves last season, and he finished fast from week 11 on. According to PFF, they had him graded as a top 10 quarterback, and they're much higher than consensus than market on Dwayne Haskins. And I don't know. I got some thoughts on this game. I like this game a lot. We'll talk about it a lot more on Friday, but I like the over on the total of 43. I think that it's going to be that both defenses are going to be pass funnels this year. And I like Scott Turner a lot as an OC after what he helped do in 2018 with Cam Newton over the first 10 games and what they got out of Kyle Allen in that offense last year. They played fast. I'm excited for this Philly-Washington game.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the decision to move on from Adrian Peterson and kind of feature Antonio Gibson more is like a really good sign for what they're going to be trying to do. All right. That is going to do it for the NFC team by team pods. If you want the AFC, be sure you are an in-season subscriber. We will send you can find on the site the instructions. Go to the About tab, subscriber RSS instructions, and you'll be able to add your personal RSS link to get the AFC team by team pod, to get Evan and I's show on Friday, to get Dink's show, to get our Sunday show, etc., etc. Okay. For producer Luke, for Jerry, for Evan, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.